part of the reasons, and I must say this, part of the reasons, even if there was no MK, even if I was not going to do anything, one of the things that I was not comfortable with throughout my years in Parliament, the 10 years in Parliament, was a culture of disruption and rudeness that characterized those that we served with. And all of those things were just planned, like, in a childish way, with no purpose. Sometimes even when there are areas of agreement, you realize that on this question we can agree. Why don't we sit down and agree on this issue and then we'll raise our issues robust? No, today we're going to disrupt. It was not something that happened spontaneous. It was planned in a meeting. And I can tell you now that there was only one person who initiated those disruptions. It was not the leadership collective. And that was mistaken to be so-called militancy and radicalism. And we kept on asking, how does this relate to voters on the ground or to the people that sent us here? And that is why some of those things, there is 600,000 lesser people who voted for that organization because they realized, but we sent you to represent us there, but you are grandstanding. So it's one of the things which, even if there was no MK or any other thing, we were going to disassociate from. And we raised it internally. What is the strategic value? What is the tactical value even of wanting to be disruptive? And what then happens? You know, the saddest thing that you will see is that the younger generations that get to associate with that organization, even in councils and legislatures, for no reason, they just go and disrupt and engage themselves in violence. And then they think that is being revolutionary because the leader says, no, that is being revolutionary. What kind of revolution is that? That is just disruption even when it's senseless. It's one of the things which will never define and be the character of Maibuye. We'll engage robustly, we'll tell the truth, we'll tell no lies, we'll claim no easy victories. But we will not be disruptive for the sake of it. We will not be disrespectful and just want to disrupt at any given point, even when you have got an opportunity to give leadership and guidance. One of the things which coincidentally has got to define Maibuye is that it's not an ethnic organization. It will never be an ethnic or a tribal organization. It's truly a national organization. So, you know, now the leadership of Maibuye, at the core level of the leadership, we are like 15 or 16 or 17 people. But if you were to just pay closer attention of the people that are within the leadership, 15 people. So all the languages of South Africa are represented just in the 15. Let's say we say in terms of the language composition of
former EFF deputy president and longtime loyalist of Julius Malema now says he was never comfortable with the EFF's tactics in parliament. That's right, 10 years of chanting, shutdowns, and red overalls, and now he's suddenly the voice of restraint? South Africa, are we buying this? In a recent briefing following his resignation from the EFF, Shivambu said, "I was never fully comfortable with the EFF's parliamentary conduct." He's distancing himself from the very strategy that made the EFF famous and infamous. He says the chaos in Parliament, the walkouts, insults, and interruptions were never really his thing. But here's the thing, this man was second in command of the party that made disruption its trademark. Let's rewind the tape. Shivambu wasn't a backbencher. He was at the front of nearly every protest, every expulsion, and every microphone grab inside Parliament. He was spokesperson, chief whip, deputy president, the guy writing the party's statements and shaping its strategy. And remember, he was the so-called brain of the EFF. So what changed now? Is it principle or politics? It's worth asking why Shivambu is saying all this now, right after walking away from the EFF and eyeing a new political future. Maybe he's trying to rebrand himself as a more presidential figure. Maybe he wants to appeal to middle-class voters or business leaders. Maybe he's hoping South Africans forget the Shivambu who called journalists stratcom agents or stormed out of SONA like a protester, not a parliamentarian. Let's be blunt. Floyd Shivambu stood by the EFF through expulsions, court cases, and public chaos. If he had a crisis of conscience, he had a decade to speak up. But now, after leaving the party, he wants us to believe he was always the silent dissenter? So, to the voters, if he couldn't stand up to Julius Malema for 10 years, what makes you think he'll stand up to corruption, crime, or capitalism when the stakes are even higher? Leadership isn't just about changing your tune, it's about when you choose to sing it. Shivambu says he regrets the EFF's behavior in Parliament. The question is, why now? Is this evolution or opportunism? You decide. Should South Africans trust Floyd Shivambu to lead after 10 years of silence in the EFF? Let us know in the comments.